In the words of Winston Churchill, success is the ability to go from one failure to another without the loss of enthusiasm. I remind myself of those words almost every single day. You know why? Because they couldn't be any closer to the absolute truth. Today, I want to talk about two different mindsets that people in our society embody and adopt. And whichever mindset you choose to adopt will have a profound effect on your life. One of the mindsets will have a positive effect on your life, while the other mindset will have a negative effect on your life. The mindset with the positive effect is called the growth mindset. And the mindset that you want to stay away from, avoid at all costs, and if you have adopted it, I think it's time to delete it. This mindset is called the fixed mindset. Dweck is the author of a fantastic book called Mindset. She's also a Stanford Professor and one of the world's leading authors and authorities on the science of motivation. She tells us that our mindset, how we see the world, determines a huge part of our overall happiness, well-being, and achievements. Specifically, Carol tells us how we can move from what she calls a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. In her great book called Mindset, Carol Dweck describes the fixed mindset as believing that your qualities are carved in stone. In other words, the fixed mindset creates an urgency to prove oneself over and over. Therefore, if you have a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character, well then you'd better prove to yourself that you have a healthy dose of them. Carol describes the growth mindset like this. When you adopt and embody the growth mindset, then the hand that you're dealt is just the starting point for development. The growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things that you can cultivate through your efforts. Having an understanding on these two very different mindsets is essential if we want to maximize our potential and achieve peak performance. My coach and mentor Brian Johnson explains each of these mindsets like this. The person with the fixed mindset believes that he or she is born with a certain amount of mojo. In other words, you've either got it or you don't. Every situation you face from the fixed mindset perspective is basically a test of whether you've got it or you don't. When we live from that place, we live with a lot of fear of screwing up and failing and looking like an idiot. And therefore, we try less stuff, we take less risk, and life is a whole lot less enjoyable. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is grounded in the idea that what we're born with is just the starting point. With diligent, patient, and persistent effort, or what Carol Dweck calls years of passion, toil, and training, we can, over the long run, develop an extraordinary amount of skill and talent. So, let me ask, how are you approaching your potential? From the fixed mindset where any given performance is a sign of your ultimate potential, or from the growth mindset where you know that with diligent, patient, and persistent effort, you can achieve amazing things over the long run. In her book Mindset, Carol has a whole chapter on sports called The Mindset of a Champion. And in that chapter, she profiles a number of great athletes who were not naturals, such as Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, and Michael Jordan. In fact, in one of his favorite ads for Nike, Michael Jordan said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed." You can be sure that each time Michael Jordan went back to the basketball court and practiced those very shots thousands of times. I'd also like to highlight another great book. In his book, The Talent Code, Daniel Coyle explains why the growth mindset actually works and why adopting such a mindset is essential for success. In the Talent Code, Daniel talks about what happens in our brain when we adopt the growth mindset. Essentially, he explains that when we begin to learn a new skill and when we practice, our brain starts to grow myelin, otherwise known as myelin sheath. And this is why Michael Jordan went back to the court and practiced the shots that he missed thousands of times, because doing this allowed his brain to grow the necessary myelin, which in turn made him one of the greatest NBA players of all time. I'd be remiss if I didn't quote a man named Michael Gelb, who tells us in his book How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, "Genius is made, not born." We have to understand, as human beings, we were created to adapt and learn new skills. However, we also have to understand that in order to adapt, learn, and master these skills, we must fail. Because when we fail and when we don't give up and we continue to practice, this sends a signal to the brain to grow more myelin, which in turn allows us to master whatever skill we are practicing. To repeat, the person with the fixed mindset sees failure as something to avoid at all costs. The person with the fixed mindset sees his or her potential as carved in stone, and whatever talents, skills, and cognitive abilities that person was born with, then that's it. That person can't grow. And that's why the person with the fixed mindset won't take the initiative to practice, to continue growing with whatever skill that person wants to achieve, because that person thinks, well, they're not capable of becoming better. If Michael Jordan had a fixed mindset, do you think Michael Jordan would be the Michael Jordan that we all know today? Michael Jordan had a growth mindset. And that's exactly the mindset we all need to adopt and embody so that we can start living our greatest life. See, when we live with a growth mindset, we see failure as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become a better person. So let's embrace our missteps. Let's embrace our failures. Let's not be afraid to take risks, because when we fail, we learn. And when we learn, we grow. Failure is essential if we want to become successful. For me, embodying and living with the growth mindset was essential for my success thus far in law school. For example, I remember during my first year of law school, in my torts class, I had a midterm. And I took the midterm, and 3 weeks later, I got my grade back. And it wasn't good. In fact, it was one of the lowest grades in the entire class. And I had a lot of students in that class. That was a hard pill to swallow, especially since it was my very first ever law school exam. But because I had a growth mindset, I didn't see that grade and think, oh wow, I must be an idiot, or wow, I'm not good enough to be in law school, or I don't have the cognitive abilities to become an attorney. No, I saw that terrible grade and said, okay, what did I do wrong? How could I do better? And what do I need to do in order to obtain the highest grade in the class? I asked myself those essential questions, found the answers, and worked my ass off the remainder of the semester. Want to know what I ended the class with? An A. In fact, I got one of the highest scores on the final exam. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I want to emphasize how important not giving up on yourself is. I didn't give up on myself, and I saw my failures not as something as fixed or innate within me, but as lessons to be learned. Then I learned those lessons and I prevailed. And that's the power of the growth mindset. It allows us to not be victims of our genes or circumstances, but it pushes us to work hard, learn, grow, adapt. And inevitably, in the end, the growth mindset allows us to reach our true potential. And with that mindset, all of our goals and dreams will come to fruition. We just have to be patient. We just have to believe, and we just have to continue learning, practicing, growing, and mastering whatever skill we want to master. If there's one thing to remember from this video, it's this. In the words of Tony Robbins, the only real limits we have in life are the ones we impose on ourselves. I'd also like to quote Benjamin Barber, an eminent sociologist, who once said, I don't divide the world into the strong and the weak, or the successes and the failures. I divide the world into the learners and the non-learners. In other words, be a learner. Don't be afraid of failures, because failing is an essential ingredient for success. We must embrace failure, because if our goal is to maximize our true potential, then we will have to fail and fail and fail and fail before we finally maximize that potential of ours. And you know why? Because failing is when we learn, and when we learn, we gain wisdom and knowledge. We become better, we become greater, we become unstoppable. So, I'm going to ask you one more time. How are you approaching your potential? From the fixed mindset where any given performance is a sign of your ultimate potential, or from the growth mindset where you know that with diligent, patient, persistent effort, you can achieve amazing things over the long run. Now get to work, embrace your failures, and start maximizing your potential one failure at a time. Check out my video right here on my favorite sleep devices that I use every night in order to optimize my sleep. Because if we want to start crushing our goals while embodying the growth mindset, then we need to learn how to master and achieve great sleep. I will see you in the next video.